Hey, good evening, everyone.
Recording in progress.
January 4th, 2021. Meeting is now called to order. We will be promoting Bob Bishop to voting member. And I believe we're ready to roll.
Yeah,
22,
22. What'd I say?
21.
Yeah, well. what's it
January
here?
4, 2022.
Yep.
So in keeping with an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency signed into law by Governor Baker on June 16, 2021, this meeting will be conducted remotely over Zoom. Attendance by board commission members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count toward quorum. The meeting may be broadcast live and will be recorded on ECAT. Members of the public and folks on the commission will be participating via Zoom. While board members or commissioners and applicants will be on video and audio, public participants will join the webinar as attendee, meaning they're muted with no video feed from them. During the public testimony portion, we can promote members to panelists, to make a request with the Q&A function. You can use those controls. Let's see, board members are asked to announce themselves when making a motion and second so that it will be clear to the audience, and minute takers who made motions. All votes will be by roll call. And then we'll vote to adjourn at the end of the meeting. Thank you for that. So I think we should probably do a roll call. So Tim, if you want to start us off.
Hurley,
Thank you. And Amy,
Spencer.
thank you. And Greg is here.
Bishop,
Range present.
Thank you very much. Bishop's present, thank you. And then we have Kathy Reynolds is our recording secretary. Hi, Kathy. Great. Okay, and then I think maybe a motion and a second to promote Bob Bishop to a voting position from alternate to a voting member for this meeting. Could I have a motion and a second?
motion.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Amy.
Second, Hurley.
Okay, thank you. And then it's a roll call vote. So we'll just sort of go around. I'll call your first name, state your last name, and yes or no. So Tim,
Hurley, yes.
thank you. Amy,
Spencer, yes.
Greg,
Range, yes.
thank you. And Bob.
Bishop, yes.
Awesome. Thanks. Okay, I think that's all the business stuff. And Tim, if you want to talk about the minutes for a bit.
Yeah, what do we have? June?
No, it's we have August 31st and September 8th,
August,
2021 minutes
Okay, yeah.
for acceptance and comment.
Yeah, and everyone's had a chance to read those, I assume. And we need a motion to accept both those.
Yeah,
Make a
and
motion to accept.
thank you. So
Second.
thank you. So we have a motion from Bishop, a second from Spencer to accept the Historical Commission meeting minutes of August 31 and September 8, 2021. Roll call vote. Tim.
Hurley, yes.
Thank you. Amy.
Spencer, yes.
Thank you. Greg.
Range, yes.
Thank you. And Bob.
Bishop, yes.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And next up, I'll promote Mr. Lincoln over. Okay, he's gone. Hopefully he'll come up. There we go.
Here he is. Hey, Rick.
Awesome.
Hi,
Liar.
Good, thanks. Good to see you, man.
thanks for having me.
So, and Greg or Tim might be able to correct me if I'm misspeaking. There is a relatively new zoning overlay in the Furnace Village area. And when a proponent retains an historic structure, they get a density bonus and can have more units on the property. And so Mr. Lincoln is proposing that in an historic 19th century house at 555 Foundry, and also 2 infill houses on newly created lots fronting Foundry just to one side. There was a site visit a couple of weeks ago that a number of members of the commission were able to attend. The Historical Commission does not have a regulatory authority over such projects, but they do have input and comment on the proposal for consideration by the planning board when they're considering the application. And I don't know if anyone wants to sort of start us off with what's being proposed or a summary of the project. I will mention to folks that Mr. Lincoln provided a written narrative of the proposed treatment of the exterior of 555 Foundry, and also some draft elevations for the 2 new houses next to it on Foundry Street.
Which we received those, correct?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. I sent those out a week or 2 ago. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know how we want to handle this. Rick, do you want to tell us maybe a little bit about the project?
Sure. So 555, as you all know, and hopefully everybody has that little narrative that I put together. Certainly an older house, 1810, 1812 or something like that. When I bought it, it's in pretty decent shape. No sagging roof or anything else, but as always, on closer inspection, needs some help. But most of the work that I'm proposing is interior. And I know right now we're just concentrating on the exterior. So I've put a new roof on it already because it needed some help quick, and we wanted to get it in before the winter. Outside, as the narrative states, we've put a couple of quick coats of paint on it and repaired some rotten areas. And the only other changes outside really are, and we've had some discussion about this. I know I've talked to, Wayne when he was out on site, Tim, Greg, is maybe removing that portico off the front of the building, which I don't think anybody feels was original to, that federal style. I'm not sure when that was added, but, it appears to be in the, maybe mid 1900s. The other issue would be the windows. They've got somebody installed replacement windows, and a lot of those have failed. So the easy way around it would be to replace all the replacement windows. But we kind of wanted to go to the next step and rip the windows out, which means ripping the casing off. And doing it the right way. I know Greg pointed out early on, somebody had put up some awful looking kind of a perimeter casing on top of the original casing. It's a colonial casing of some sort. So the proposal is to just rip all that stuff off and replace it probably with an AZEK type material. And also replace that non-historic colonial casing with this Anderson and McQuaid profile that I've got in the narrative, that 4500, number 4500 there. And the windows we're proposing, I've learned a little bit more, Greg and Wayne, since we talked. So definitely the simulated divided light grills and windows on the front of the house. But when I was in there, I could still hear noise on the front side of the building. So I'd really like to take the SDL windows around the side, like half the side. And the reason I have to do the SDLs is they can't do what they call a laminated glass, which is the sound attenuating window with a grill between the glass. I think the laminated glass is too thick. So the only way I can do a sound deadening window is with the simulated divided lights. It costs more money, but I think I'd like to do 8 windows on either side, first floor and second floor. So I'm really coming down that house on each side about halfway. But I think the customers are going to be happier. And I should back up because I don't know if everybody knows, but I'm trying to convert that to a condominium. So there'll be a unit on the first floor and a unit on the second floor. And with that kind of segues into the next issue, which would be the garage, this detached garage in the back, which I think we chatted about in the last meeting. And I think you all have the elevations on that. And then the last item would be a rear deck, which I think you have on the floor plan there. There's already kind of a concrete deck off the back, and our proposal is to probably top that and get the elevations to work inside the house and then extend it out, like I think it's 8 or 9 feet on the plan, to give the first floor unit a rear deck that they can have some steps out into the backyard. And that's it with the exterior. Right now, we're not really, we may rip out some landscaping. There's some overgrown bushes that kind of hide the house. But we're not, that will probably get after in the spring, but hopefully those will all be improvements, not detriments. So I think that's all.
Well, sounds good. It sounds like what we spoke about out there. I'm glad this is somewhat, if you will, a joint venture between planning and historic. We're kind of following up on the shirt tails, if you will, of planning from this proposal to allow you to use 2 more lots here. But I think it looks like it's gonna be a great plan.
Going the extra effort with the windows, I think makes a big improvement too, and it'll satisfy a lot of people as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Rick, I'm just
So-
wondering, you talked about doing the SDL, simulated divided light, for those who don't know. So, the original windows would have had, actual divided light where the 6/6, each pane was its own. In modern technology, they take the laminated glass and they put permanent grills on the exterior, on the interior, so it simulates the divided light. So you talked about doing that on, I guess, part of the side elevations. Do you think, how many windows, do you think it'll look odd that, because the grills will be very pronounced on the SDL, but then if you have grills between glass on some on the same side, are you concerned that that'll look?
Well, the only side I'm concerned with, Greg, is the side on Pequannock. Honestly, the other side, it's heavily treed and, nobody's really going to see it.
Sure.
Well, we can go look at it. I think there's a natural break there after the first row or the first 2 columns of windows. Then you step into that farmer's porch that's out there, but there may be 1 more column of windows. I'm not sure.
Okay,
But
I'll take a look next time I drive by.
Yeah.
I just would hate to see you have to go to all the expense and then have it look kind of awkward, just for the.
I know it. Yeah.
Of course, I
just
can sit there and
trying to-
spend your money all day long, but I think it's
It's a delicate balance.
follow up on Wayne's sort of introduction on this. For those that don't know, or for those in public, the purpose of this bylaw, when we created 4 new zoning districts in the Furnace Village area. So this is in the Furnace Village residential, which has an overlay with a historic district, and there are a number of historic structures which have remained. So in return for a density bonus, in this case, Rick's looking to turn this to a duplex, and a couple additional lots next door, but that's a separate application. But anyways, so in return for that, what does the town get? Well, we get some economic development, some revitalization with new residences in that area, but also the whole reason historically gets pulled in on this is we're looking to enhance or continue to preserve the history that's out there. So that's why I know it may sound like a silly I'm questioning 1 or 2 windows, but you know, we're trying to, again, you know, bring back the historical look of this neighborhood or enhance it or maintain it. So that's why I'd be just looking to maybe maintain that all on the Quanticut side or something, so having 2 different window types, but that's a discussion we can have later. But anyways, that's the genesis of my question.
Yeah, I'm with you, Greg. If you know you drive by, it's going to flash on, you know, on a sheet of glass as opposed to being broken up by the grill. So, you know, take a peek at it. We'll see what we think.
There is one other thing, folks. I just looked at my own narrative here, is doing something at the front door, not on the structure, but there's an old set of stuff. I don't even know if they're original, or they may have parged it and covered it with concrete, but there's not a legal building code legal landing out there. So we were hoping to construct something, you know, maybe a 3-foot landing, and then with a set of steps, you know, with hopefully we remove the portico as well, and then either out of brick or granite or something that really goes with the, you know, with that era home. Should look better than what's there now, for sure.
Yeah, keep us informed, Rick, on that. But I mean, you know, obviously you got to get the code.
And
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yes.
just one other thing that pertains, that has to do with this property. When we were out, you know, we've had, I know some of the town staff has met out here. I know some members of different boards have met out with Rick. And we're all probably pretty familiar with the existing wrought iron fence on the property, sort of an icon of that area. And I know Rick had a local company, a local firm out there who one of the best in the nation at restoring these, and it's a pretty hefty price. Unique, very unique fence. It was built. This was, as we know, this is one of the Belcher estates originally. And this fence, they believe, was built at the Belcher factory right next door, and it's pretty unique. And knowing that the Swifts Park, this little piece of land at the end of Quanticut, which most people don't even know it's a park, it's sort of that triangle in front of the used car dealership. I know there's a steering group that's been put together to look at maybe enhancing that park, and then kind of dovetailing with what we've done at planning and zoning with this zoning. I'm wondering if we should consider, we being historical commission, consider maybe a CPA application to have this fence preserved, restored. You know, it's very unique. It's a big ticket, and I know it's a bit much on a fence, but when you think we go back to revitalizing this area, you're thinking in the future when more residences are added, more businesses are added, the road is beautified with the redesign and reconstruction within a decade, the set of lights that's going to go there, the new park, it might, you know, it gives us a unique opportunity to save a really historically significant piece of landscape architecture in a section of town that really hasn't received a lot of CPA money. So just kind of throw that out there. I know we can discuss that at a future time, but I think that kind of came up during the site walk. I think the price is north of 240 grand, if I recall. And I get that the economics wouldn't work for Mr. Leakin to do a full restoration of that. And, you know, we could do a little, or but you know, there's sort of a little, you know, maybe a Rube Goldberg fix that could be done to secure the bottom. But, you know, maybe it's something worth discussion by the residents in this community. Anyways, for my 2 cents.
I think we'd all like to see it saved. We all know it's unique.
It does have the coolest gate I've ever seen. And Rick,
Yeah,
I think you said that it has sort of a center pivoting gate. And I think you said DeAngelis, who, I mean, they're tops really in the nation in this stuff, that they had never seen a gate like that.
Right. Yeah, they were impressed.
Your intention is to keep it as best you can under the circumstances, correct?
Yes, I certainly know, in this case, cast iron expert, but when DeAngelis came out, they kind of spent a lot of time and kind of chatted about the construction of it. And the short story is, and their take on the design is, it was really kind of a flawed design. beautiful fence.
Yeah.
But the bottom rail, they said, should have been done differently a couple hundred years ago. Of course, hindsight, but that's why it's so expensive to fix.
Yeah.
But it's a cool fence.
You don't have any intention of taking it down at the present time or during.
No,
the
I wouldn't
Okay.
touch it. I had
Yeah.
offered, there's a few people in town. I think one might be the individual across the street that's associated with the old brick commercial building there, where people are wanting to restore it and, put it on other town property, but I don't think they realize the price tag. So
Excuse me for interrupting. I think Greg's idea of looking into its future with some grants or something might be well worth it. At least I think it would be.
Yeah, I mean, we've done it in the past. I think purchasing a historic preservation, on it, because it really is, when you get up close, there's a few pieces missing that you wouldn't even notice when you drive by it, 40 miles an hour. And it's certainly the heaviest. I was been in the city the last week, and Back Bay has a lot of cast iron, wrought iron fences, but this is the heaviest one I've seen. And like Rick says, there's a design flaw with the base, so it's not going anywhere anytime soon. But it's kind of, while this is under one ownership, this may be a good time to sort of joint venture with CPA and with the applicant to try to get this done, because I think this is an important piece for this part of town. But I'm being redundant, so I'll not be quiet.
just following up on that, if I may, I'm going to keep the first floor for some time as kind of a model for across the street, the development there. I would certainly be amenable, probably have to talk to town council, and then, maybe Walter is putting some kind of deed restriction, because, once both units sell, I kind of, I've lost all control, some kind of deed restriction where if the town is interested at some point, CPA money or otherwise, that the town doesn't have to, my fear would be the town, somebody would hold out and want money for the fence, which is nobody wants that. So we could craft some deed restriction like that, or some kind of agreement, be open to that.
Well, it's
Yeah,
definitely preserved.
Yeah, it'd be nicer if we could just, during this funding cycle, come up with, if the town wants to support it, then we can just put it to bed. But we certainly appreciate the opportunity for a deed restriction if we need to.
Yeah.
Plus, I get another bite at the apple when you come to planning. So I'm just kidding.
So sort of a administrative question for comments from the Historical Commission to the Planning Board on this proposal. Is it a fair statement, Tim, that the Historical Commission is in support of the details in Mr. Lincoln's narrative for the exterior treatment? And I can sort of write that up as a summary for your review, with the only two different things being one, simulated divided lights, not just on the Foundry Street side, but also on some extent of the Pequannock Avenue side, the exact number to be determined, and explore a deed restriction or deed provision or something, and funding for restoration of the iron fence. Something like that.
Also, I think he wants to check back with us on front steps when he's made a decision.
Would it be acceptable? And I don't know, I'm legitimately asking. I'm hearing he's proposing either brick or granite, whichever works, that he can build to code. Would either of those materials, whichever he chooses?
Yes, I'd just like to, see what they before it gets put in place. I'm sure he'll have some type of workup. And the other thing was, I don't know, Rick, what'd you do with the portico? You gonna try something else there, or?
No, I've thought about that. There's really only one unit that's going to use that door.
Right.
And it may not even be, so it's like, I hate to put anything on the front of the bed, because anything we do is just going to, in my opinion, kind of detract
Yeah, okay, so the portico's gone and nothing else. That's all I was wondering. That's
Well,
fine.
and you'll see that beautiful elliptical entrance, with the stained glass. And Tim, if I could just interrupt just to circle back to what you talked about, I guess I'm speaking kind of as the chair of the planning board here, that when and if we vote to approve this thing, the mechanism isn't really in place to, historicals here is kind of advisory. So it's difficult to say, oh, we have to check back with us on the stair detail, because there's really not a mechanism for that. And that's not legal for us to allow that, because it's statutory. So I just want to be upfront.
The windows would be much different though, would they? I'm just asking for more or less a courtesy thing, not a regulatory or anything else. And I trust Rick's.
Rick called Tim.
Exactly.
I can do that.
Okay, so I'll sort of draft up comments essentially summarizing the narrative that Mr. Lincoln provided with provisos about the windows on Pequannock and the fence for Tim's review, and then we can submit that to the planning board. And also, as a little piece of information, the portico, I think, is 1980s. We have photos from the early 1970s, and it's not on there.
Yeah, it's junk. It's junk.
So
Yes, it's sometime
not
after the invention of AZAC.
even-
Right.
Yeah, it's got like an 80s.
Oh, I mean,
90s
no,
look to it,
Trex. What am I saying?
definitely.
AZAC, Trex.
Yeah.
I had to go back in time.
Okay, thank you. And then, Rick, you also asked to talk briefly for a little bit of feedback on the proposed new houses at, what are the addresses, 51 and 53?
51 and 50, 550.
551 and 553, sorry. Yeah.
Honestly, 551 is the only one I have drawings on. My guess is the next one's going to be similar, just put probably a different face on it. But I don't know if people can see the rendering, or if you can share the rendering.
I am looking for the screen share, and I'm not seeing it as an option.
We were all sent the copy though.
You did get copies. They were
Right.
emailed as attachments. Yeah.
Right. And
I
they're
will
right.
say, after we a comment or so on the side, I think the front of the building seems to work, and the side it's been kind of sent back to BKA to get a little more historical down the side of the building. Their rendering doesn't show the SDL windows, which I would certainly do on the front. I don't think their rendering got that detailed. But the window, the color of the sash and the muttons, would be similar to 555. I don't know about the shutters. I don't know what everybody thinks about the shutters. Honestly, I already have a client for that house that already lives in Easton. They weren't fond of the whole shutter routine. Maybe make it look more like 555. Not necessarily white.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to, if again, going back to keeping in mind the purpose for this, allowing these lots to be created, really was rooted in several things, and one of them specifically was, like I said, revitalization or enhancement of the historical area. So, and I know this is just a simple rendering, you can't always get it, but I would like it. I think it would be simple to have this house just tie into sort of really standard, simple federal details, pigeon stools, architraves, the crown and rakes, which the front is close to. I mean, that little, the standing seam, the metal roof, I'm like, it's a bit trendy. I'd rather see that in more traditional material. That's just me. But then, Wayne, can you go to the side elevation?
So yeah, let me open that.
Because there was I thought that really, looking at the side elevation on the top there, it really started to lose that just kind of this modern look. And I think there's ways to get what you're trying to do, but to tie it into more of a traditional federal look. So, and I know we spoke about this last week, but I would just like to, I would feel we had dozens and dozens of public hearings and neighborhood meetings, and we spent all sorts of times walking the neighborhood with the neighbors, the whole South Street area and this section of Depot, which really, isn't well preserved. You know, there's some nice houses out there, and I'd like to see us. I think there's a way for simple, but simple architectural details to hit it out of the park. So I'd like to, I'd just like to see that detail be a little less modern and a little more period, for my 2 cents worth. Because again, then I think we're being true to the spirit of the bylaw.
Do you think, Greg, most of the issue is with that second
Yeah,
vertical?
absolutely. It's that salt box thing. Yeah,
Right.
I agree.
The garage could use a little work, but that's further back, But
Yep.
and I think the standing seam roof on the front, like that, if that porch doesn't overhang, because I look at it, I'm like, are they really gonna be on a front porch on Foundry Street? It's kind of noisy. And again, I'm not, I get that this is for a specific client, but for me, the bylaw trumps the client. So, I'd love to see whether it's a bracketed little hip roof just over the front door, or something just a little more. There's certainly some, just a little more federal or colonial revival period to tie into the sort of the grand dames on this side of the street to really enhance and bring it all together.
Okay, I got a couple of thoughts there that I can communicate to the architects.
Okay, and so Rick, you had said in your narrative about 551 and 553 Foundry that you're looking for the windows to be black sash, black muttons, with the front-facing windows on Foundry to be those simulated divided lights, and then the siding will be either smart wood by LP or concreted board by Hardy, maybe 4 inches or so to the weather.
Right.
So you're gonna do simulated divided lights and Hardy plank or smart wood or something for the siding, and then you're gonna work with planning to refine the architectural details, especially for the front facades, but also the sides, something maybe a little more federal.
Yep.
Okay. And then maybe I could also just summarize basically what I just said as a quick comment from the Historical Commission back for Tim's review. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool. Okay. Let me see, stop sharing. Yes, technology. Great. So how are we feeling about the Founder Street projects, Tim?
Excuse me?
Are we kind of done with Mr. Lincoln tonight?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Rick. Yeah, I'll draft up some comments for Tim's review and finalizing, and I'll get those submitted to the planning board. And thank you very much for the site visit and for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate everybody's time. So I
Thank
think
you,
it'll be a good looking project.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Happy
Bye.
New Year.
Happy New Year.
All right. Next, we got 3537 for Quanticut, I believe.
Yes.
This is is everybody familiar with this? Where it's an older, what's it got for siding on it right now? Board and batten siding?
It's a weird 1970s deteriorated. It's been empty for several years, actually.
Yeah, I think it's just a vertical sided. I don't even think there's batten. I think it's just maybe shiplap, but they contacted me and then contacted Wayne or vice versa. But the gist of this here is they've asked us, they want to preserve the building, and they've asked us for our opinions on, where to go with it. We supplied them with original front photograph from the MHC report from way back when we were lucky enough to have one done in 73, I believe it was, when we still had the original facade on there. So they wanted more or less just go with what's there and reproduce the original building with siding and front door trim treatment. So not much to say. They want to put a dormer on the back, which doesn't even if we're a historic district, it wouldn't really affect us. We would have no say on it. So they want to keep both chimneys. That was the attempt anyway. So they're trying to keep the symmetry and the originality here.
Yeah, and as Tim and I were talking about, and Greg might be able to correct me on this, but I know I understand talking with Stephanie. So it's historically had been a two-family, then has been abandoned for several years, and so because it's been disused, they need to sort of reapply for their special permit for a two-family. So I believe that they will be coming to the planning board in the next several weeks. And so, to that end, the commission would be, supplying some comments. There's no real regulatory role for the commission here. But as Tim mentioned, the new owner had reached out to Tim, to talk about what would make sense for this building. And, and Tim and I were talking, so for some past meetings, the commission gets demolition review applications. And, that can sometimes be a little disheartening. And what this is an early 1800s building in the, sort of Foundry Village National Register Historic District that is not actually proposed for demolition. There's a new buyer that is proposing a pretty historically appropriate exterior treatment to update it as condos and a new, depending on the planning board's, feedback and conversation, legal two-family. So, it's kind of a nice example of how zoning and permitting, working with the historical commission members, can lead to a project that is not actually a demolition application. That can keep this historic building and give it some new life. And as Tim mentioned, they're proposing anyway to keep the chimneys, certainly on the outside, replace the siding with a sort of a hardy blank material, do 6/1 or possibly 6/6 windows as simulated divided lights. So they're making a pretty solid investment in the building.
Well,
I
if
think
we're gonna, if I may, Mr. Chair, if we're going to, speaking on this as a historical member, I wonder why we always undersell ourselves. I mean, Easton, I think, is pretty good. We have a nice history. We have a lot of people that work on it. And I remember many years ago, or several years ago, we had a applicant who in a commercial building didn't want to do wood. He was proposing, cement fiber siding. But in a case like this, if the question is what would the board like to see, then if we're going to make this a historical restoration, and if that's going to be sort of used as a leverage to apply for duplex, because the use on this is long since expired, and it wouldn't be allowed, and it's not a very big lot, then why not? Yeah, as a starting point, why not? Historically appropriate size trim, simulated divided light windows, but why not wood clapboard, which would have been the original? My house was built in 1815, and 32 years ago, I put on flood-coated, factory primed red cedar clapboard, and I just repainted it for the first time. So wood isn't bad, and I just wondering, maybe you guys could answer this, but we seem to be always pushing cement fiber. Why aren't we which that's not historical? Why aren't we pushing wood? Why are we underselling the historical accuracy in Easton?
I don't know, as we said, Hattie. Did you say Hattie, Wayne?
Well, maybe that's not a manufactured name, but
No, I mean, all right, we'll split hairs here. I'm not sure if we said cedar siding or cement.
When they had talked to you, Tim, they were proposing vinyl.
Right, and I told them no, we really vinyl. So
Yeah.
So here, Greg, is where you start to, do you win the battle or lose the battle? With vinyl versus cement board, or you tell them go clapboard and they go, no, we'll go vinyl instead. So I don't know where, we don't have the power to enforce clapboard.
You
I
say
don't
single
believe.
family or duplex. That's how I mean, if we're gonna do a carrot and the stick, I hate saying
Yeah.
that on TV, but my point is, because sometimes people don't know. I mean, people, I just, again, and I'm not zeroing in this, I just, every time we do, why is our starting point? I mean, this isn't the first time. Our starting point is always cement, cementous, fibrous lap siding. I'm like, why isn't it wood? We're the historical commission. We're not the almost historical commission.
I feel
Yeah,
like we generally try to suggest wood, but most of the time the applicants are trying to save money, and this seems like the happy medium. Like, I don't think we ever don't suggest wood.
Yeah, well, but I would submit that wood and some cement sidings are pretty comparable price-wise. And from a maintenance standpoint, if you, if it's, I brought up the example of my house only to say that, most people don't wait 31 years to paint their house. But if you put up, properly primed factory priming, you can.
Was yours finger
you can
jointed?
save a bundle.
Was yours finger jointed or was it a solid cedar?
No, mine was solid cedar. Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's the deal now, is if you don't go with a solid cedar, it looks like crap in a few years. And then we're dealing with something worse, That's
Well, I
unless
wasn't pushing for finger jointed. Well, whatever. I'm just saying. But again, it sounds like we're
understand
dealing from a position of weakness. If folks are hoping to
Yeah.
get approval, this is a special permit by the planning board. It's not by right. So if somebody wants a, this is just a lot. This is a very small lot with a single family house on it. So somebody wants. So why? Okay, think of it as a planning board member. Why would we allow? Why would you allow this? Because if you allow, every house on small lots to become a duplex, they'll pop up all over town. And if that's what the town wants, that's great. Maybe that's not what the town wants. But if I'm assuming it's at this board because it's okay. They're either advised or they're hoping to bring this back to historical significance or historical use, which I think that's worthy of perhaps awarding. I think a board could look at that and say, oh, okay, that's good. They're looking, but so then why not make it, full? I'm not saying, geez, go in and repoint the chimneys and line them and make them workable. I'm not saying go with actual divided light. I'm just saying maybe we should try to get wood siding out of them versus cementous.
Well, again, in this situation, it's only the power of suggestion, I believe.
Sure, but
Yeah.
the optimum word there is power.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, why it just seems like we're underselling ourselves. It's just all I'm saying. So
No, I agree. Yeah. Well, when we get back to it, Wayne, you could say we would prefer clapboard siding, cedar claps. I don't know if we've gone anywhere with specs with them anyway, have we?
You're sort of distorting. Yeah.
Somebody?
Yeah, I can't tell what you're saying.
you sound very nervous, Tim.
Yeah.
We can't hear you.
Have we gone as far as requiring any? We're not requiring anything at this point, right?
No, I think it's. I think the Historical Commission doesn't really have a formal role here. It's just commenting on a special permit for a two-family application.
So I'm with Greg that I would always like to see wood siding. So if we suggest clapboard siding and there's any balk at it, well, that's the way it goes. But we only have that strong power of suggestion. Beyond that,
I
we're
think
glad
it
to
should just, yes, we could suggest it, but I don't think we need to say, you have to do, well, we can't tell them they have to do it.
Right. I feel it's a win, just the thing is going to be standing.
Yeah, and it looks like they're doing a nice job with it. They're trying to do the right thing.
Right. So, sometimes just saving the structure is the best we can do. So. Are we voting on anything here, Wayne? Or is
No,
this just a?
No,
This is just a, okay.
just by putting together some comments for your review,
Yeah.
Tim, and I'm hearing that the commission basically likes the approach, would prefer wood over hardy plank, and definitely not vinyl.
Yeah, okay.
And, you know, we've had several inquiries over the last few years about this house, always from speculative developers who want to demolish it and build new.
Well, yeah, and I think we need to be careful to not push it in that direction. Like if we have someone who wants to save it and try to get it back to how it was, I think we need to embrace that part of it.
Yeah, but I think the key is back to how it was.
Mhm.
I mean, I think back prior to you were on the board, Amy, there was a house that I think two 2x4s that were original were saved inside a plaster wall behind a modern Home Depot kitchen. And then a historical plaque was slapped up on the house. And it doesn't look like a historical house, and it's not a historical house. And I just think we need to, we being the historical commission, I guess my original question, I'm not trying to stir the pot, I just don't understand why a historical commission would right off the bat just start to drop. I mean, just saving this house, okay, but if it's going to be saved with just modern materials and not look historical, then why? It's not really relevant to what we do. But if they're going to specify what they're going to do for water tables and freeze boards and corner boards, and those are done in period materials, then I'm like, oh, that's nice, because I guess I'm speaking, as a potential planning board member, I'd be like, well, why would, just because they're saving the original footprint, but they're going all modern with vinyl or cement and vinyl windows, why would we award them a duplex? What's so special about that? That's how I look at it. That's why it's called a special permit. So if there's a board that needs to lessen, or lessen the requirements, I could see it being the regulatory board in this case, not the historical advisory board. You would think we would stick to our guns. And I'm really talking more all of our projects in general. It just seems automatically the first feedback we get from staff or from the chair on this is, oh, they're going to go to cement siding. We told them to go to cement siding. Well, why not wood? That's what's historical. So that's all I get to say.
Yeah, it's on the Zoom call.
Okay, so comments are prefer wood,
The historic.
but not vinyl.
But correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would hardy plank be acceptable to people
I'll have him call.
if that's the only thing that the applicant felt they could economically do? And again, this is not the regulatory board.
Yeah, I don't think we have, then it becomes, and I don't know where planning's power is here. If they can, if they have the power to say no to vinyl siding, I'm not so sure. I think that might be a stretch. I don't know, Craig.
I
But
wouldn't want to answer that question because we're not in session for the planning board. But
Correct.
I would stress that all duplexes in town are via special permit, as granted or not granted by the planning board. So that is not by right. So there are many reasons that the planning board could not allow it.
Okay.
Like there's many reasons that they could allow it.
yeah, but I think I'd be very disappointed if we get to the point where they decide to tear it down because we were going to force them to put clapboards instead of allowing cement board or something,
Yeah, I think we can suggest, we love
Right.
to see wood, but if not, the backup would be the hardy.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Wayne, there's your answer was negative to vinyl. So,
Yeah, I'll draft something up, Tim, for your review, and then we'll
yeah,
send it.
thank you. Thank you.
And, I guess-
Are we done with the agenda?
Essentially, we really should try and dig in on outreach or some sort of special events or something for the new local historic district.
Yeah, I spoke with
Cool.
one of them, the Haywood family. And told them, we want to get together, and if they want to, I don't know how much design they can get into a sign. They could pick the size and maybe they could weigh in on color, but I don't think we're adding anything to it beyond the name of the district.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's not just signage, this isn't are we putting up local historic district signs? It's, do we have, do we want to like have a get together and talk with the owners? Do we want to tie it into Easton's, 325th anniversary, something like that?
Right,
It's coming
right.
up in just a few short years.
350th, yeah.
Yeah, 350. So there's, and Greg has sort of talked about this in the past, sort of doing more outreach or events or getting people excited about preservation. And, there's this, run of really pretty neat historic houses and a new local historic district. And, the pandemic has really shut a lot of stuff down, but, as we may or may not be moving out of that at some point, can we start considering events or get-togethers or, having a special meeting to welcome them or something like that. It's like, what are some of the things we might want to do for outreach, for publicity, in addition to just getting a local historic district sign put up.
All right, okay. Well, like I said, it's a little bit of an awkward time to try to plan something like that. You could always tell them we're gonna, stay tuned in the future. We're gonna try to do this, so I could do that easily enough.
Yeah, maybe folks could give some serious thought and, at a near future meeting, maybe next month or the month after, what are some events or publications, or do we want to place stories in the newspaper, or, like how to do some more public outreach around it.
All right, okay. All right. I guess that's it. Correct?
I think so, yeah.
Anybody, anything? Motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All right, yeah, let's go around and do a roll call vote. Tim?
Yes.
Thank you. Amy?
Spencer, yes.
Thank you. Greg?
And Strange, yes.
Thank you. And Bob?
Bishop, yes.
Awesome. Thank you,
Good
everybody.
night, all.
Good night. We are adjourned.
Thanks all. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Bye.
you.
And thank you, Kathy. Really appreciate it. Please be in touch
Yeah,
if you have
thank
any
you.
questions.
Bye.
Bye.
Night, night.
Good night.